Hello, my name is Spartz. I am currently a mathematics education major at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. In my field of education, I have learned valuable facts and fictions of what high-stakes tests can do for educators. I would like to inform you of some of the disadvantages and advantages of high-stakes testing and how socioeconomic status affects them, and what you can do as educators to help test scores and find a balance in a set of curriculum. Socioeconomic status, put more simply, is where one falls on the social class ladder, such as upper class, lower class, and middle class. This can play a big role in how well one will do on a high-stakes test. There are many theories when discussing this topic, but some proof behind it. I reviewed many articles and found some viable information. The most common theory discussed is that the higher a person scores on a high-stakes test, the higher their socioeconomic status, meaning they could have more money than the others. This statement can go both ways, and the lower the high-stakes test scores, the lower the socioeconomic status, etc. Also, a huge statement made is that most individuals taking these tests are upper middle class white male Americans. Some statistics show that this is a true statement, however, it depends on teachers' ability to teach the viable information on those tests. A main concern today is that teachers are teaching their curriculums around high-stakes tests and not having a good balance of information. This could be harmful to students' learning because the students are limited to specific information and aren't getting in-depth knowledge on the subject. Educators should establish new curriculums with a better balance of instruction on high-stakes test material and instruction on in-depth concepts. It is a controversial topic today because most people do not necessarily know for sure what influences test scores. The majority of the articles I have reviewed stated that standardized tests set a standard of how well a student should be able to do overall. This makes the subject controversial. Just because a person can get a good grade on a standardized test does not necessarily mean they actually know the material of that course. When a student takes a high-stakes test, many things can be going on through their mind, such as, am I going to fail this test? I did not study well, and other things like that. I remember sitting in the ACT room being really stressed out, especially since there is a time limit on the sections of each test, which really puts pressure on a lot of students. Also, a big issue is if we should even keep the tests, or rather just get rid of them completely. These presidential candidates give their opinions on standardized tests and help us determine our own personal perspectives on the subject. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden give their personal perspectives on standardized tests and if we should keep them or not.
Now we know that the goals of this law were the right ones. We know that making the promise to educate every child with an excellent teacher is right. We know that high standards and accountability in the abstract are right. We know that it's right to close the achievement gap that exists in too many cities and towns, and that it's right to focus on the inequitable distribution of resources and qualified teachers in our schools. We didn't need some words in a law to tell us this. We already knew this, and every one of us is still willing to do whatever it takes to make these goals a reality. But don't come up with this law called No Child Left Behind and then leave the money behind. Don't tell us that you'll put high-quality teachers in every classroom and then leave the support and the pay for those teachers behind. Don't label a school as failing one day and then throw your hands up and walk away from it the next. Don't tell us that the only way to teach a child is to spend too much of a year preparing him to fill out a few bubbles in a standardized test. We know that's not true. You didn't devote your lives to testing. You devoted it to teaching. And teaching is what you should be allowed to do.
You all know what's happening with No Child Left Behind. The test is becoming the curriculum when it should be the other way around. and the curriculum is being narrowed. I hear story after story about music and art or physical education or field trips being cut out of the school day to make more time for drilling and routine work to prepare for the test. I don't know about you, but I remember those field trips. I learned a lot on things that took me out of the classroom with my teacher's guidance and gave me a view of a wider world. How much learning is exactly going on? Our children are getting good at filling in those little bubbles, but how much creativity is being left behind? How much passion for learning is being left behind? And what about those children who we know are bright and successful in the classroom but simply don't perform well on tests? And we know these children. I know these children. They have tremendous talents, maybe musical or artistic talents. They're made to feel like failures because the curriculum doesn't reward what it is they are good at. So we need a new approach, one that is balanced, that puts learning, not memorizing and testing, front and center in American education again.
We're losing too many children in this country. Too much talent is being wasted. Too much potential untapped. And we know what we need to do. And it's not no child left behind. We need to do a heck of a lot more. First of all, we have to stop focusing on just test scores. We know even if the president does it, children need more than test scores. Secondly, we have to start education earlier. Thirdly, we have to pay teachers more. Fourthly, we have to reduce class size. And fifth, we have to make higher education available to every child who can qualify. You don't need any more experts coming in before you start teaching in the fall to tell you about what you need. You don't need the administrator telling you. Every single one of you knows in your gut what is needed. I agree with your slogan. A child is more than a test score. You know that. Parents know that. Jill and I know that. So how can you expect our students to build a new economy if all they're doing is filling out bubbles? How can you expect them to think critically? How can you expect them to think critically if all we're doing is testing their ability to memorize things?
Most people today do not know that these test scores affect educators. How do these test scores affect educators, you say? Well, the higher a school does as a whole on a high-stakes test, the higher the salaries for the educators. This can be crucial to some schools for their students to do exceptionally well on the tests just so their salaries go up. However, some schools do not particularly worry about the scores their students receive on the tests. There are some proposals on how we can, as future educators, get these scores up. An example of a proposal is not just to teach course material around a test, but however, have a well balance of information taught in a classroom, not just based around this test. So how can we do this? Well, being an education major poses many things that we can do to help the scores go up and still have a good balance of information taught. We can set up new curriculums for students that have a good balance of information on academic tests and also more information on in-depth concepts. I've interviewed a few students asking them some questions about high-stakes tests and socioeconomic status.
Is it just like say testing? Oh, I like it. Well, I think it's good. It relaxes me.
I don't like it because I'm not a very good test taker, so it kind of shows that I'm not smart, even though that I kind of am.
It means you're...
It's like the difference between maths.
Do you know what socioeconomic status is?
No.
It's like social class, like upper,
Okay.
lower, middle.
I know.
Well, it could be represented by houses and things that you own and your career and that kind of thing.
Stomach issues right now. To me, socioeconomic status is your social class combined with your earning potential, and then usually people judge others based on their socioeconomic status, but I just really don't care.